Welcome to Chapter 12, the central station of global trade. This video will explore the logistics of the Red Sea and Sahel, based on The Silent Creditor by Sam Prajnananda. First, what is GriotWave? It is a sovereign digital platform dedicated to creating and distributing knowledge, music, and stories that empower communities. We transform timeless wisdom into practical tools. We invite you to support our work to build independent knowledge systems. The Sahel and Red Sea are not wastelands, but critical, logistical, white-hot zones. Superpowers are fighting over choke points, not sand, and Africa is the pivot connecting the Atlantic to the Indian Ocean. Djibouti, for example, hosts multiple international bases. The Red Sea is the jugular of the North. The Bab el-Mandeb Strait, or Gate of Grief, is a critical maritime choke point, carrying about 10% of global seaborne oil and 20% of commercial exports. It is the primary gear determining the speed and cost of global commerce. The system relies on, quote, just-in-time vulnerability. Factories in Europe depend on a rhythmic flow of parts from Asia. A blockage here forces a 3,500-mile detour around the Cape of Good Hope, which can instantly triple shipping costs from places like Shanghai to Rotterdam. This situation creates an African strategic rent. Coastal nations like Djibouti, Eritrea, Sudan, and Egypt sit on this jugular, gaining the ability to demand massive rent. Djibouti's economy notably acts as a, quote, geopolitical toll booth. The Red Sea is also the subsea data nexus. It is the corridor for fiber optic cables connecting east and west. The narrow waters between Djibouti and Yemen host nearly all this traffic. Cutting these cables would significantly impact financial markets globally. This reality highlights data sovereignty. African coastal nations are the, quote, landlords of the global internet. Strategic power now exists in securing data flow, not just physical goods. The Sahel acts as the continental land bridge. Historically the site of great trade empires, it is now being reimagined as a modern logistical continental beltway. It is the bridge between the Mediterranean and the African interior. In terms of gas security, Europe is leaning on the Trans-Saharan Gas Pipeline, or TSGP. This pipeline brings Nigerian gas through Niger and Algeria to European kitchens. The fight for Niger represents a fight over the valve of this critical pipeline. The logistics spine strategy involves connecting Dakar on the Atlantic to Djibouti on the Red Sea. This turns the Sahel from a buffer zone into a high-speed corridor, bypassing sea routes to internally integrate the continent. A case study is Djibouti's business model. This microstate exercises macro power through strategic rent. Base leases generate about $150 to $200 million in direct annual rent, and it hosts both US and Chinese bases to prevent total dominance by either. There is also the Ethiopian connection. 95% of Ethiopia's trade passes through Djibouti ports, facilitated by a $3.4 billion Chinese-built electrified railway. Djibouti is an active arbiter of global competition, not a victim. Migration is used as a geopolitical tool. The Sahel is the primary transit route for migration to Europe, and migration is treated as a logistical flow that can be weaponized. The EU pays billions to nations like Niger, Libya, and Tunisia to act as external border guards. This creates the migration lever. African nations use the fear of migration waves to extract concessions. Governments can relax borders to gain trade favors or less political interference. However, this highlights the fragility of the transit state. Strategic rent provides cash but often fails to create strategic development. Logistical hubs act as enclaves where wealth stays within the barbed wire, leaving base hosts with a, quote, polite fiction of sovereignty. In conclusion, the goal should shift from transit to terminal. Africa's power is that the world must pass through it. While transit is low value, the terminal processing and destination is high value. The focus must shift from port to pit to becoming the global factory. A key insight is the link between GDP and geography. Geography allows Africa to act as the world's toll collector, providing geopolitical leverage that transcends traditional GDP metrics. Strategic action steps include forming a Red Sea bloc to set collective transit fees, building Sahelian industrial corridors along trans-African highways, and creating data sovereignty hubs to mandate local processing of global data. To help others find this content, please like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a deep dive. Finally, share this with a friend or colleague who needs to see this information. Thank you for watching. For further exploration of this topic, Please see the resources provided by GrioWave.